In this 1-hour tutorial, we're building a bunker from scratch. And we're doing this by making the core of the bunker, then we're spending time on the materials, and then we jump to the lighting. We're using some area lights to get this effect, and we're supporting this by these light lamps. Then we jump to the rubble generation, we're dropping some piles and we're aligning these in the scene, and we're almost done. We're doing some little bit of compositing, and when all of this is done, we can finally render the scene. So let's get started. Okay, so we're starting Blender and we focus on the cube because we're going to need it. Left click and we go to the top view, pressing 7 on the numpad. And I like to import a reference image. It's like sort of the blueprint of the bunker. So we go to Add, we go to Image, Reference, and I got one reference image. It's the blueprint, and we're going to add this. You can find this image in the pack zip file. You can find this on my Patreon together with the textures and the models you need for this course. It's all available for free. You just have to go there and download it. So that's for the files. Let's continue and make this shape of the bunker. So I'm selecting this reference and I like to match this with the size of the cube. And you go to wireframe, yes, so we see the cube and we're scaling it as good as we can. Something like this. It doesn't need to be 100%, 99 is good as well, but yeah, as soon as we start extruding it, you want to have this reference. Okay, so far so good. I like to left click on this image and we go to opacity and lower this a little bit. And the reason is that I like to see the blended grids, otherwise it's pretty hard to model. So I'm selecting the cube, going to the tab, pressing 1, so in the vertices selection mode, pressing B, we're selecting these and we're going to move these vertices, so we're going to recreate the shape. So I'm pressing G and holding Control and moving it to this position. All right, so far so good. We're not done yet. We're pressing E again, holding Control so it snaps. And it's very important that we take a look at these blended grids. So, or units, we want to have this perfect square. So we have to focus on these outlines. Right there. Pressing B, we're going to the left, pressing E, here we go, to this position, right here, pressing E again, and we go down. So far, so good for this part. Now we're going to the, move forward, pressing E again, and right here, and you can see this outline right here, you have to match this. Okay, now we're moving to the side. Okay, so you don't have any reference right now, but I'm with you. I'm going to help you. Pressing E, okay, release this with the right mouse button, pressing G. Okay, so now it's pretty hard. What you do is Control, and you align this so it's matching this point. So you go up to blended grids, and you go to the right to blended grids. Okay, we extrude this again, like this. Okay. And we go to the right and you can see it's not perfectly aligned with the reference. That's not what I want. It's no problem. As long you use the grids, you're totally fine. Pressing E like this, go to the front view, press 1, and we're moving this on top and extrude this one more time. Okay, so we're doing pretty well. In fact, this is the core of the bunker, but we have to do some polishing before we can continue. And one of these things is, by the way, you have to check if the scaling is right. Okay, I want to add a sort of a curviness, a sort of a bevel on the side. So what I'd like to do is we're going to the edge selection mode and left click. So left click and hold Control, left click, shift left click like this. And you're doing this for all these sides. Like so. Go all around. Control Z. Okay, you have to check if you selected just the outside. So don't select these. You don't need that. Don't select these lines or this one. You don't want to do that. Okay, so what I like to do now is go to the top view. I go to the wireframe and I press Control B and I want to have like 4 blender grids. Control B and move this so it's matching 4 blender grids. Okay, so doesn't need to be snapping as long as you're trying to match this. Something like this. Okay, you can see it has some problems right here because we go to the corner. That's all right. Okay, we're doing a check and we're doing pretty well. So now I like to move forward, adding some extra geometry on the bunker, but because at some point I like to displace it. And if we do this in the current state, we will run into problems. So before we do that, I like to lower this blueprint, something like this, and we only need it for this door, but we need extra geometry to do that. So how do we do this? We select the cube or the bunker, and we're going to add some edge lines. And what we want is making more like cubes, adding an edge line over here as well, adding 2 over here, adding 1 on top, and you automatically get 1 at the bottom. And because this top part is smaller than the bottom, yeah, it's like different. It's not a big problem, really. It's not. So we're starting adding more, 1 over here, and over here. I mean, it's going well, looking good. Adding some edge lines on this point, 3 over here. Well, let's do for 2. 2 will be fine. 1 on top. I mean, I'm pretty sure this will work. All right, so I like to delete some faces like these because we don't need it. Okay. And we can now make a door. And what I like to do is selecting this edge line. So I'm going to the edge selection mode and selecting this part. And I like to move this a little bit more to this position. And you can do this for this one as well. So, okay. So I like to select this part and extrude this to this point. And maybe a little bit more. Okay. Because when I made this tutorial, I was looking for some extra room, just a little bit, and I didn't have it. So this looks good. I like to delete this point light, and now we can delete the reference as well. Okay, pretty nice. So we're selecting the camera, we're moving it to this position, we rotate it like this. Okay. And we're going to lower this, go to the front view, pressing 0, and we're pressing Shift tilde. Okay, we're actually now in the bunker. So we have to align and find a nice position. At this point, I also like to change the focal length, starting with 24. Now we can move forward, something like this. We have to find like a nice position. Okay, so far so good. What I'd like to do at this point right now is focus on the materials, and we're starting with a concrete material. So we go to the material editor and concrete layers. Just like this, we go to the shading tab, and here we have it. And we go to add texture and image texture. Okay. We have to find it. It's scene files, it's textures and concrete layers. We're starting with the diffuse. For now, we're ignoring the displacement for a little bit. We're going to add this later. The roughness and the normal map. Okay, we're just combining these. And for the normal map, we need to have an extra node, the normal map node. And then we have to select it. Normal, and these are, by the way, also available on Polyhaven. We have magic stuff in Polyhaven. Okay, so as you can see, there is a texture now applied, but it looks stretched and not good. So first thing we do is we also, by the way, need some edge lines at this point. And I like to select everything and press subdivide. Okay, it was important to do this. Pressing U and cube projection. Okay, now I like to go to the UV editing. Okay, and go to this camera viewport, go to the material, and I like to select everything and turn off these arrows. I don't like these. And we're scaling it. Okay, so what are we aiming for is you can see these stripes. So that's the concrete layering. And I like to move this a little bit downwards. So we have the seam at the bottom. It's a nice detail. We have now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these concrete layers. Something between 6 and 5 works the best. So try to experiment with this. I do not have like an exact value, and I don't want to give you that. But I mean, this is way too small, and if you do this, it's too much. It's like kind of, you have to feel this. All right, so this is the first material. I like to jump to the next one, and that's one for the floor. All right, so what I like to do is we go to the material tab, adding a new one, and call this concrete underscore floor. Perfect. Okay, so first we're going to add the textures, and then we're going to align this. Okay, we're opening this, not concrete layers. I'll have the concrete floor damage 01. I scanned this one, I think a year ago in a factory. Lovely texture. There's the roughness, together with some more of these concrete. The nice thing about this texture is that it's 5 by 5 meters wide. So you can do a lot with it. Most of our textures are 2 by 2, but this factory floor was pretty nice. Okay, just some information from my side. Anyway, let's enjoy this. Okay, what I like to do is we're selecting the floor like this, and we're going to assign the concrete floor like this. UV editing. Let's go to the camera view, material, lower this a little bit because I mentioned it was a 5 by 5 meters texture. So I want something like this, otherwise it looks not in balance. So as you can see right now, we have like the concrete layering and the floor. So we can jump to the next part, and that is adding some more detail on the materials. Then we're going to add the door, adding the lights, and then we're done. It's going very fast. Okay, let's move to the next part. All right, so let's continue working on the materials a bit more. I like to focus on the water puddles first, and then we jump over to displacement. So what we will do, we go to the shading tab, let's go to the camera viewport, make this material, and we're currently in the shading, that's fine. So we're going to build a node tree so we can actually make these water puddles. What we need is a texture coordinates, there it is. We need a mapping so we can control where we want to have the puddles. We also want to have a noise texture. This will actually make these texture shapes or the puddle shapes. And a color ramp. Color ramp. Here we go. We're putting these. We're going to combine them. We put generated because we don't want to use UV. Generated gives us a much better result. Vector. And let's say color goes right here. In the color ramp, just putting these a little bit too close together. And we also want to have a mix. Color mix node. Okay, so we're putting this color into the factor, but also in the A. And in B it will be totally black because this will represent the reflection color of the water puddles. And then we're putting this into the metallic. Okay, won't display anything yet. We need to configure this. So the magic happens, or not really yet, but the shape of the puddle starts right here. I want to make smaller puddles and a detail of 5. Okay, and then we have to like put these close together, and you can see our puddles appearing. And like move these a little bit up so we can see the shape. But the problem is that the roughness does not have the input or the mask input, so it knows where to put the reflection. So what we'll do is we duplicate this mix node, and we're putting the color into the factor, and then we have these water puddles. Is it perfect? No, not yet. We're working on it. So making them smaller. So if you put a little bit of space between it, you can see that's like a transition between wet and more dry. Okay, we will work on these puddles on where we put them on the location. But first, we can see that the normal map is effective also on the water. So this is the normal map from the concrete, and we don't want to have this on the water. So what we need to do is we're duplicating this mix node. Okay, it's not going well, but what we need to do is duplicate the normal map as well. And we have to find water, the water folder, but comes with this tutorial. It's just a plain normal map. So it doesn't have any structure. We're putting this into B, and we're putting the color from the color ramp right here. And now it knows only displaying the normal map from the concrete on the concrete, but not on the water puddles. And it looks much better. So what I'd like to do is putting this in position. I mean, it's still a little bit too big. Like this, close together, and move them to the right. Something like this. I think this is pretty nice. So each time when you make this tutorial again, you get a different output. Of course, you can control this very well into detail, but it also sometimes surprises you a little. You can increase the roughness a little if you like, but I feel the default value already does a good thing. All right. So far so good for the water puddles. We need to make a little adjustment later when we add the displacement, what we're going to do right now. And then this is done. Okay, displacement. All right, so what I'd like to do now is adding displacement. We already prepared this mesh for displacement. So now we're actually going to import some displacement maps. So I like to change Eevee to cycles, doing this in the solid view and using the GPU. One of the reasons is it's going faster and my recordings will capture it. If I record with a CPU, everything will break. Anyway, we go to the material preview and we're going to add displacement, starting with the floor. So what do we have? I like to duplicate one of these images and we change this to displacement. That's the one. Okay, we go to add displacement and adding this node because this supports displacement. We have to make the displacement non-color because it's a black and white image. And we're putting this into the heap and using a value of 0.15 for the floor. Depends what kind of material you use. And we're putting this purple output into the displacement. Very well. All right, so displacement is active. You can see it on the ground. It has some bumpy effects on the water puddles. We have to fix this. One thing I want to start with is we go to the material tab and go to settings. And for one reason, we always have to change this to displacement only. It's a very important settings. Otherwise, the displacement won't work. We go to the modify tab and we import a subdivision surface. And because we're using cycles, we can also use adaptive subdivision, and I want to change to simple, otherwise we get this curvy look. We don't want that. We don't want that. Okay, we still have these bumpy effects on the water puddles. It's not good. So you ask yourself, how can we fix that? Well, it's exactly the same as how we fix this for the roughness and the normal. We duplicate this mix node, putting it right here, and we need to have the mask. The mask goes in the factor, so it's making this perfect blend between reflection and transition to the concrete. So far, so good. Let's put this a little bit more to the background. Okay, nice node tree. I kind of like it. Before we do rendering, I also like to add displacement on the wall. So we have to go to materials, concrete layers, and we have to go to settings, displacement only. We duplicate a normal map. And we're importing a displacement node. We're combining these. For this, I like to use a value of 0.07. The reason is if I increase this to something like 0.15 or 0.2, it will be way too much for this type of texture. Some textures have lower displacement values than others, and this one is pretty heavy. Yeah, so concrete. It's a normal map. We have to change that. You can see it's already different than the floor. It has more white and black That makes a difference. This texture is from Amal. He's a very good texture artist. He makes amazing scans. So, if I'm right, this is from Amal, from Polyhaven. All right, so a lot of talking. What I'd like to do now is we check if everything is right. So we have this texture applied on that map. And if we render, everything is black. So we have to import a light as well. So we go to the outliner and starting to name this as a bunker. Okay. And adding a new collection and call this lights. Okay. So in the light collection, we're going to add light, area light. Moving this to the rear, and it's now a square size, and we want to add like this bunker lamp later on. It's a rectangle shape. Ctrl Z and make this smaller, something like this. We're using a power value of 50. These are my standard values. Feel free to experiment with any value you like, so you capture the mood in the scene you like. And we want to change the temperature, but before I do that, I want to display how this looks. So we go to render mode. Okay, I do Ctrl B, so we only render the viewport, and GZ, and we move this to the top. I prefer to move this a little bit more to the front, and then we render again. Be aware we are on GPU, otherwise I can do my recordings again. I recorded 30 minutes and then it was all out of sync. So we can see this light. And it's kind of white. But if we go to the temperature and we lower this to something like 2000, something like this. Let's make this 2100. It's nice, warm orange light. We just have one lamp for now. So we press Alt D. So as soon as we change values, it works both ways. Okay. So we're not doing that, but if we change the value from this light, it will automatically doing that. Are you doing Shift D, then you have a unique light. Okay. So the reason what I like in this is that you have a light here, then you have a little bit of darkness, and then you have the light over there. So I prefer to have this light as far as we can. GY. Okay. So another thing is we do duplicated Shift D this time because, and I will show you why, I want to make this more blue. Go all, oh, we have to select this. Okay, and we move this to the top, just like this. Okay, we render it again. Okay, so we have this nice shadow point and we have a little bit of blue light over here. And what I also like to do is adding two area lights in the foreground because we're going to add a bunker light there as well. We go to add light, area light, and we change this from square to disk, and we rotate this and putting this to the right here, make it smaller, something like 0.2. Yeah, we have to align this so it's visible in the viewport. Let's take a look. Yeah, GY, something here, a little bit lower. A power of start with 1 and a very cold temperature. Okay. Alt D. Rotate is 180 degrees. And we're moving this close to the wall. If we now, let's check, yeah, a little bit closer to the camera. And it's not like the most logic setup for lights, but it kind of works for what I want to achieve. Okay, so this image is very dark and we want to have this dark. We don't want to have this or make this a very bright scene. In the foreground it needs to be dark. And then we have light layers that adds depth. So for this light, I keep it this way. What we can do is go to color management. We have to do this anyway. Medium low contrast and increase the exposure a little, just a little bit. Okay. So the final thing for the lighting, and we're not done with this, but Shift D. Oh, don't do the Shift D. Alt D. Okay. And we have to lower this, something like this. And if we render now, we can see the layering starting to get at a point where we want this. Denoise this. Okay, denoise just remove the noise from the scene. It's a very simple option, but huge effect. So for now, these lines, it doesn't look like they do much, but they will do a lot in the end of the scene. So we have light layers, we have displacement on the wall. We're doing actually pretty good. So let's move to the next part and focus on the door modeling and adding a stair. So let's focus on the door first. For this, I like to switch to the modeling tab like this. And we're going to add a cube. It's right here. Putting it in this collection, calling this door frame. It's important that you name your objects. Just drag it right here. And I like to make it smaller, so we have 2 Blender grids. And what I like to do is move this so the origin is right here. We're selecting these right there, and my screencast is sleeping again. There you are. I'm sorry. There it is. We'll lower this, and it's quite hard to see the shape of the door. What we can do in modeling work is using the matte cap and using some shadowing in cavity and the outline, and this way we can now see the door shape, and this helps when do modeling. And we do mirror. There you go. The Y, and now we can bring these right there. And it's not perfectly aligned. So what we'll do is we first model it, and then, so here, 1 extra cube in the grid, and we aligning these close to each other, extrude, here we go. Okay, so that was very easy. We apply this and we delete the face in the middle. Okay, bringing this a little bit more as X together. And now we're going to add a material, and then we're aligning this with the door frame. New door frame, like this. We go to shading, add texture, image texture. And I know there are ways to improve the speed of this. I think it's the, how is it called in Addon? The Gaffer Addon. You just do a key combination, you have all your texture nodes. But we just use 2 textures for this. I mean, it's not a lot. Importing the roughness, and kind of chilling. I could fast forward this, but actually not doing that. It gives you some time to think what you're doing. Okay, is this normal? No, it's not normal. Okay. We're cool. Okay, so we have the texture applied. It's the white metal. Yeah. So what I like to do is Control A, rotation and scale. We select everything and pressing U. Cube projection, go to the UV image tab. I like to select the door. It's the white. It's white. Here we go. Okay, so for this, and we go back to cycles, by the way. I start with this part. We aligning these with these borders. This is a little bit time consuming, and you better take it easy, not doing it as fast as I do. You aligning this right there. I mean, I want to make a tutorial for around 40 minutes, so I have to be quick. And sometimes I'm making these overviews and doing fast forward, but this is like a tutorial. You want to see what I'm doing, but I mean, I'm not doing this very slowly. Tutorials above 1 hour. I mean, you can do that, but it needs to be like a very powerful one. Okay, if we check this in the material editor, we can see, I mean, it's a very simple door, but it works. It's a door frame, by the way. So what I'd like to do is we're going to align this in the material viewport. Okay, so because we're using displacement, it looks different than in the solid mode. It's something you need to be aware of. And I hope this is going to change someday. But it's kind of frustrating to get things done in this viewport. In the material. Oh, there we go. Okay. I mean, tutorial-wise, it's not the best. Okay, now moving this more to the background. And there's some... It looks weird because there's some hole, but when rendering, you won't see it. Okay, so it's now time to make the actual door. Add mesh cube. So we start with finding the shape. Okay, so must be something like this. Okay, and make it SX, make it smaller. So it needs to fit. Doing this in the viewport. Make it a bit smaller, taller. Okay, Control A, rotation and scale. We're using the same material as this frame, so we go to the material. I have to be close to the mic. Door frame, make it unique, and the only thing we change is the color, making this blue. Okay, Q projection, UV editing, and try to measure this between these two borders. That's very important. Okay. So you have this blue door. It's not important you add the handle. The only thing we want to do is open this door, something like this. And we render. Okay. That's fine. We're good. So we have the door. We'll tweak the lights because we have to import the light trace as well. I like to do one more thing for the modeling part, and that is adding a stair. How that works is we're going to the edge selection, press 2, and then we can select. So do this in the modeling, by the way. I have to revive this again. Okay. Okay, press point so their face. So I'm in the edge selection mode, shift left click. You have this one selected, press shift D and press P. You make it the selection. So now it's a unique model. It's just a straight line. You go to the side view, press 3, press 1. So now in the edit mode. You're still following me, I hope. Press E and E again. So you have this rectangle shape. We're going to do something fun. Go to the modify tab. You can keep this, just make it invisible and go to array. So it's arraying it to the right. What I like to do is changing this, make this 0. On the Y, making this -1. And for the Z, -1. So it now is going down. Make it a value or count of 10 and you have your stair. It's simple as that. It's so simple as that. You can apply the array. And what I like to do is we're going to use the material, not the floor. And because we extract this from the big mesh, we have the materials. So what I like to do is select everything, pressing U, Q projection, UV, and scale this a little. Okay, you can just take it a look. Looks fine. And I personally like to add a little bit of variation to. That's too much. In proportional editing, you press O, like this, and you can change that. I had to say that from start. So, a little imperfections makes huge sense. Okay, so we have the stair, and like we have to do it the right way. We're doing this for this shift D, P, selection, vertice selection mode, going to the top, going to the right, not in proportional editing, please. Okay. And we go to array. For the Z, make 1, make it a count of 10. And we are applying the array. Concrete floor needs to be erased. Select everything, go to the side view, U, cube projection, scale it a little bit, and you're good to go. Now you have your stair on both sides. Okay, so I like to start with the roof lamp, and for this we're going to File, Append. I got my models folder. Where is it? That one. It's from the factory course. We need to go to Collection, just select all of them, Append. So here they are. So which one? I don't want to have this model. You can simply delete it. This one is much better. So let's move it to where we want to have it. Okay. So isolate it. Move this to the top. So it's pretty big. Let's make it a little bit smaller. Just a little bit, holding Control, move your mouse. And there you go. You're aligning these two. Move them at the bottom. And they also come with a little bit of emission light. Okay. So let's do Alt-D. Not doing anything fancy with it. So here they go. And we're selecting the roof. So good. And of course, we also want one over here. So it's something we had to do from start, but I didn't like to start with the lights. So sometimes you have to make choices where you want to start with. Okay, cool. Bunker lights. Pretty good. What's next? So we have more models. One of these is this one. Just delete it. Delete it. So lights. We go to File, Append, and I like to go to Bunker Lamp, Collection. Here it is. Okay, so here's the bunker lamp. I like to scale this a little bit as hold the Control, make it a little bit smaller, and you can define what value you like. Okay, here we go. Just check. Yeah, make it a little bit smaller. Okay, and you can see in the measurements how big it is. Yeah, it has multiple parts, so it's quite hard to figure it out. Oh, Control Z. Just moving this area light line right here. You have to match this. Okay, now we select all these parts. Deselect it. And I like to press Alt-D and putting it right here. Okay. And it's important that you do this in the material preview, so you can match this with the ground. Like so. And same for this light. Deselect everything. You just have that one selected in the material editor, and then you move this. Okay. So let's do some rendering. I'd like to see what we have right now. Okay. So they need to be a bit more downwards. I mean, this looks a little bit not how I want this. So selecting these. So only these are selected and not the one in the background. Maybe in the render mode works better. Okay. So, and they have a very important function to cast some light in the foreground. And we're not there yet. I mean, we still have to all these configurations. But yeah, so far so good. What I'd like to do is we're also importing some electricity. So, yeah, let's just do this in the outliner. This is good. File, we append, and we go to it's the modular electric cables, and same for this. We want to have like select everything. Okay, it's appending them in the middle, so we're just moving them to the other position. And are they displayed well? No, we have to rotate this to the other side. Here we have them. Okay, so a lot of electric cables. I like to work with this one to start, because bunkers always have these cables everywhere, wires, pipes, and that's pretty awesome. So I like to start with adding these on the roof. We're rotating it. And I like to align this in the material editor, like so. Very important. Let's move this to the other side here to start. And we go to the Modify tab, Array, and make this one. No. Is it that one? Yeah. And there we go. Just enabling these. It's just one straight line. Like so. Re-render it. Yeah, you can see the line right here with some light casting. Good. So I like to make some connections, and I'm doing a little bit fast forward because it doesn't make any sense doing this like very step by step. So I like to make connections with these lights and making some duplication. So so here we go. I have some fun. All right, so that was some modeling and we had to do this in the viewport in the material tab so we could align it. So we do rendering and take a look how that looks like. All right, so we have the lights, we have a power switch. So what's left is tweaking a bit more of the light, and I have to add some railings, and then we're pretty much done. So we're almost done, but let's do some final tuning. So we slowly move to the final part of this tutorial. That is a lot of tweaking and adding some dirty parts like decals, breaks, and I mean, all kind of things that make this look finished. So the first thing is I like to focus a bit more on this door, and how we do that is, opening it a little bit more. I like to select it together with the area light, and let's render this. And we move it a little bit more to the left, something like this. Not too much, but this way the door is highlighted and it works much better in the scene. Same for the other light, rendering, and move this board to the light. And you can see what I'm doing. So I'm putting shadow in the foreground, then we have light, then we have shadow, light, and you go, this add natural depth without using any depth of field. What you can do, what's fine, but this working with light is so powerful. Okay, so we have the lights in the scene, and what I like to do is spend a bit more time on the walls. Currently they're very clean. What I like to do is adding a little bit of decals. Go to the UV map, I call this leaking. Oh, not with caps. That's kind of odd. Leaking, that's perfect. We go to the shading. We have to select the concrete layers, like here. Currently we have nothing there, so what I like to do is duplicating it. We go to select the texture, and we have decals starting with leaking, add color, mix color. We're combining these two. Alpha goes in the factor, and input UV map, and that's the leaking, goes right there. So we have to beware that we select this leaking, select everything, and make a cube map. Cube map projection UV, and we go to leaking. There's one texture that's right there, make it smaller. All right. So what I like to do is go to the face selection mode, and starting with this row, holding Control, left click, and you have select toe. Left click, Control, left click, and there you go. Making it larger. And let's take a look what we have in the viewport. Okay, so it looks kinda not natural. So let's go to the shading tab, viewport, material preview. Okay, so it's looking green. It's nice, but we can tweak this a bit more better. So add color, UV and saturation. But I also like to work with the blending mode, color burn. That's too much. Multiply. Yeah, that's something that could work. Changing the value a little. Yeah, just the value. And I like to just make it a bit more bigger. In the material, I want to see the object feedback. Okay, could make this smaller, whatever you prefer. I mean, you want to make this look like natural leaking or moss or water affecting the wall. And by the way, we have to do this for all parts of the wall. So right here, oh, right, left click, and here we go. Okay. And one thing you can do to add a little bit of randomness is starting to, in proportional editing, tweaking this. So, I mean, it's small, but huge effect. So we'll fast forward this for everything in this room. Otherwise, this tutorial is getting too long. All right, so we have leaking everywhere in the scene, and let's go to the shading tab. What I'd like to do now is doing a rendering. So, and I mean, you can keep tweaking it. I mean, it's now a little bit too much, but you get the idea that there is a transition between the floor and the wall that looks better. And of course, when rendering, you have this displacement and it looks a bit better. And there's another thing I like to do, another overlay, and that's graffiti. And I mean, it's exactly as the other one. You duplicate these two. Instead of leaking, you want graffiti. And you want to mix this another time and call this time not multiply, but mix. And you go to the graffiti. I will show you what kind of graffiti I have. And there we go. And the alpha is totally getting messy here. Okay, so you can see what I'm doing. It's like this. So again, select everything, cube projection, UV editing, make it smallest. But we have to select the graffiti. Is it graffiti or graffiti? I don't know. I'm sorry. So select this part, make it bigger. And I like this skull looking really dark. Something like this. Okay, now you can put more. I want to mention, however, by the way, I'm just looking at this and I can't outstand this. It's simply too much. Let's go to the UV editing, leaking, move this a little bit upwards. Okay, so with graffiti, you can put it everywhere, but the viewer will be distracted. If you just put it gentle, very subtle somewhere, it will work, but you don't want to spam it like everywhere. You get confused. That's with everything in the scene. I mean, I could fill this bunker with like barrels and cans and all trash, and in some way it kind of works, but then I'm really starting to tell a story. And I mean, for tutorial base, I'm not going to do that. Whatever, what we're going to do, so final step is we're going to add some rubble in the scene. And this is a very fun part. So as you could see in the thumbnail or the movie, you could see there is rubble everywhere. I made this, by the way, I'm going to delete things I'm not going to use anymore in the scene, because otherwise they may be going to do things I don't want. So Creating rubble can be done with the C3DE add-on. Currently using the factory. If we go to rubble generator, you can see all kinds of rubble piles. What I like to do is making a combination of broken bricks, no cable scrap, a little bit of floor concrete, no gloss shards, no iron scrap. I mean, why iron scrap in a bunker? Or maybe it could. Large debris, no. Small concrete, just one. Small pebbles and no wood splinters. So I made a selection what I want to have. Making a low pile because I don't want to have very large piles. Then I'm creating a ground plane right here. So I'm pressing Shift H. So it's right here. And I'm making a rubble selection. It's right there. And generate rubble. Okay. So what it will do is it's starting to drop the rubble on the plane. So far, so good. What I like to do is go to my animation tab. So, and opening my add-on again. So at this point, I want to go back to frame number 1, and I like to add a ramp. So I want to control this rubble a bit more. GY. I mean, it's a part I really like. Okay. And I mean, it really needs to fall down. Let's say we're doing this. And here we go. We have got rubble right there. Still not really happy. So what I can do as well is duplicating this another time. So something like this. And maybe a bit more like so. Okay, give this another shot. Hit play. There it goes, close to the pile, to the wall. Okay, and let's say I like this pile. We bake current frame like this, and then press Alt H, and we're selecting this pile. So rotation, and making it smaller. I have to bring this in position, and yeah, I mean, I had to just hide these for a second and bring this pile up. There we go. It's too close to the camera, and the pile is way too big. Let's say here, close to the camera. Bigger. And merge this. So we have one over here, maybe a little bit farther away. Shift D, rotate it, and there we go. In the material editor, we have to match this with the material, otherwise it's really blending in. Okay, and let's render. So let's move this a little bit more to that direction. Okay, so I mean, it's a little bit of rubble, but it really adds value in the scene. So let's say you want to have a rubble variation, Alt H, and we're grabbing this construction, Shift H. What we simply do is, let's say we want to have less bricks, but we want to have more floor concrete. You make rubble selection. So it's a new selection, and you generate a rubble. Okay, so now it's displaying on the other side. That's not a problem. So the only thing we need to do is just grab these and bring them right here. Okay, and we hit play again. And there we go. Kabang. And just wait a second so they're in position. So it's a different pile, and we're just baking it here. I kind of done with this, so I'm just deleting everything here. Press Alt H, selecting this pile, and like we move this right here. So this is from the factory course. So it has all kind of factory props that looks pretty cool. But I'm also working on an office pack. You have different kind of rubbles, and it's very powerful to work with it. Let's say we also want to have, let's make it a bit smaller, and Shift D. You can also do Alt D, of course. Okay, we bring these right here and render. Okay, so, and you can go on and on adding this rubble everywhere, but it's very effective. It's pretty nice to have. And I mean, you have metal scrap, pebbles, wood splinters, so you can create all kinds of rubble. So it's there in the add-on. And you also have material presets and the props. So if you, for example, want to add a barrel somewhere in the scene, let's go to where's the barrels, and I'm going to append random object. So the only thing is to do is you're putting this somewhere in the scene. It's just an example. I'm not going to do this for the final render, but yeah, here you get your barrel. It's actually looking pretty cool having a barrel right there. All right, so I like to do a little bit of fine tuning, and then we're wrapping up this tutorial. So here we go to the final part. Okay, so a little bit of tweaking. So we finalized this. We're closing the add-on. We don't need it for now. By the way, you can also use if you are in this shading, go to the asset browser. If you have the add-on C3DE, you get your props and you get everything. You just drag and drop this. It works better than in the viewport. But yeah, or you have your materials, whatever works for you. Anyway, what I like to do is finalizing this scene by adding a fog box. So we're adding a cube, and let's also organize this a bit more. So scene, and another one is atmosphere. Totally cool. We have the cube. Right, I added a cube here. I lost a cube. So we're scaling this, and we're going to measure this whole area. I like this. Perfect. Here we go. Scale this. And everything needs to be inside this cube. It's not a light probe. Control A, rotation and scale. We go to shading, new. We don't want to have the principal BSDF. Add shader, volume scatter. So if you put this right in volume, and let's make this 0.1, and we have to go to the scene settings, light paths, and make this a value of 3. Okay, let's say you want to use the default settings. It's not even default anymore, but you will have a lot of fog. I mean, this is pretty nice. And you can start tweaking if you want to have a value of 0.2. The higher you go, the less mist will be visible. 0.9. Yeah. 0.05. Okay. So it really depends how you want to do this. I actually like something, no, 0.8. This is where you can really shine in finding some settings that fits the scene. So I like to boost the brightness in the scene a bit more with exposure. And it looks like this is not really aligning. Whoa, where am I? So one thing, I'm going to make this in the object data bounds. Okay. Because I want to focus on this area light. Bring this close to the light. Same for the other one. It's just floating GX. And I wasn't aware of that, but after adding fog box, it was visible. Okay. So you can see after adding this fog box, it now gets visible. It's pretty nice. The lights, I mean, in the foreground. So I'm trying to render this again. So try to find something that you really like. Okay, So you can try to play around with the power value, lower this or a bit more, less, whatever works for you. So one final thing I like to do is go or make a render. We go to the render settings. I like to increase or lower this 0.03, increase this so it results in faster render times. And I'm rendering this on a GPU, so I'll do the rendering. One other thing is you select the mesh, and you can increase this to 2 if 1 slows down your render. You will have a render impact and you will have less displacement. Okay, let's hit render. I will pause. So here we have the render. I like to go to the compositing. We add new, and just we adding some nodes starting with a glare. Putting it right here and changing this to bloom, and you can lower the strength. Okay, and you can see the area light right here, so you have to can adjustment this as well. I also want to add a little bit of chromatic aberration, just very small, like 0.05. Okay, and a vignette. This one is actually pretty important for this scene, so it darkens the foreground a bit more. So I think the more you add, the less effect you will have. Something like this. Okay, and that's pretty much it. So this is the end of the bunker tutorial. I hope you enjoyed watching it. We did quite a lot of things. You'll learn about materials, about displacement. And I think there is one thing I can see, and it's a very important thing because we wrap up. We have to flip everything. Control L, Alt N, flip. We render it again. We'll pause it. Okay, because we flip the normals, displacement on the wall looks much better, but also the objects we added close to the wall are now merged. It's very simple to fix. The only thing you need to do is you select your wall, and you go to your mid-level from your displacement, and you just start to tweaking them so they are right there. Okay, that's pretty much it. So you hit render again, and we'll take a second, and then you're done. So that's pretty much it. It's the end of this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed. We did a lot of great things, and I hope to see you again in a new tutorial. Bye-bye.